All right, last video I wanted to record for tonight, YouTube. What's going on? Recorded a couple of real talks tonight. It's relatively early. It's almost 10 o'clock. You know, I usually record these videos pretty late, at around like 11:30, 12 o'clock, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. You know, these real talks go pretty late, but right now I'm in a pretty good time to record this, so I'm gonna make the most of the momentum I have. So what's going on, YouTube? Honestly, I'm really happy I'm building a community of warriors. You know, I do want to take this channel to the next level, but I also want to start like prepping for university. You know, I was thinking to myself the other day, like, now that I know what I'm capable of, well, I've always known what I'm capable of, but now I have the opportunity. I was thinking about maybe gunning for medicine. Like, I don't want to I don't want to say to myself like I'm going to do that, because, you know, like, that is the most competitive course, not only in my university, but like I would say everywhere. But I do think I can do it. Like, I'm not even kidding. I do really believe I can do it. And obviously to do that, you know, you kind of need to start prepping now, because the fact of how serious a degree or course like this is, you can't really afford to make mistakes like I did with I did. Like, this course I got into now is the second most competitive at my university. Thank God he had mercy on me to allow me in. Like, I'm not saying I didn't do the work, but there were some times where I was really doubting. Anyway, I'll make a huge testimony video about that on the future. But, you know, yeah, I was just thinking about this. And for this to happen, I really need to lock in my systems. Not only because I do genuinely want to be a physiotherapist, but if I have the opportunity to go and do something, I'm going to take it. And that's the best thing you can do. Because why waste an opportunity that can, you know, even if you fail, at least you tried. But I've learned a lot, especially with getting into physiotherapy. You know, I need to plan a lot more, because I kind of went all in without much of a safety net. And even though I did pull it off, I need to be a little bit more careful. And I want you to take note of that. If you're gonna go all in your dreams, I was on the verge of being homeless. I was in a very emotionally dysregulated, abusive, and whatnot environment. I won't talk too much about it. You know, there was a lot of things that wasn't in my favor, and because I'm a very stubborn individual, I still said, fuck it, I'm gonna pull it off. But however, I don't want you to think that that applies to everyone. You know, when I was a kid and all these success people on the internet talked about, like, have a plan A, don't have a plan B, because if you have a plan B, you're gonna ruin plan A. Don't do what I did. Like, yes, I did that, but the problem with that is, let's say you didn't get the goal you wanted. You're kind of fucked. And I didn't really have much of a safety net. I'm gonna be brutally honest. Like, on this channel, I won't bullshit you. I'm telling you the truth. I don't like that advice. And I think, especially with kids, when I was a kid, listening to that kind of stuff, you're not putting yourself in a good position. Especially with life nowadays. You know, especially if you're watching, I get times can be very difficult, and times really can be very, very difficult. So why make it harder for yourself? Don't do that. Always have a strategic plan B, plan C. So no matter where, even if you achieve your goal or not, at least you're still falling like a tiny bit shorter of your goal. So no matter what happens, you're still in a good position to go and achieve it again, or take a different pathway that can lead to even more success. At least that's how I look at it. But anyway, I want to talk about a good message in this video, which is why when you start winning, no one is clapping. I'm pretty sure that's it. Let me double check. So here's what I wanted to talk about in today's video. Sorry, I had to turn my camera off because it was overheating a little bit, but I turned my air conditioning on. So have you ever noticed, like, when you start winning, like, people stop clapping, if that makes sense? Let me just make sure. Like, have you ever noticed, like, when you're actually, like, on your path to, I guess, becoming better or achieving what you want out of this life? But, you know, like, when we first do something, we're struggling, we're not perfect, we're still figuring it out. And have you noticed how the people around you have the most to say, have the most to pick at you? Like, I think the main reason now why things feel off for me, not one of the main reason, but a reason, things go silent, things feel off, and you're not really used to this kind of feeling, this kind of situation. And that's because when you actually start like leveling up and start winning, you've heard this before a lot of time on social media, like yes, you become intimidating, yes, you become confronting, and yes, you do become different. And that is part of the journey no one really talks about. Like when you finally start getting your life together, start being disciplined and start like changing, I guess it really starts confronting a lot of people. Because I don't know, from my experience, I would say people like you better when you made them feel safe, when you made them feel comfortable. But when you actually start changing, all you do is hold up a mirror and you show people and you remind them you're doing something that they're not. And that's it's very confronting. It spikes a very uncomfortable feeling in people. It kind of, in a way, right? This is a weird analogy, but I'll try to describe it to the best of my ability. Even though you're excelling, and yes, these things are trying to poke at you, yes, it makes you feel weird deep down inside, but because you're growing. Okay, I'm going to try and say this. My camera's overheating, so I'll keep this quick. Essentially, what's going on is, this is how I like to look at it. When you're genuinely like improving, like, yes, they're going to try and poke at you. Yes, the world is going to try and get to you, whatever you want to call it, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. But you're becoming like too powerful for your environment. Like you're expanding. And all that's doing is making people who can't fit in your presence uncomfortable. It's like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like inflating a balloon in like a tiny box. Like the bigger it gets, the more unstable the box becomes. So that's how you can look at it with like the people around you or the things in your life. You know, everyone has something to say when you're still figuring things out and you're not sure of yourself. But when you start becoming sure of yourself and you start exceeding, again, you become like a balloon, you start inflating. And all that's doing is making things feel uncomfortable. So what do? They try to poke at the balloon, they try to pop it, because they don't like feeling like this uncomfortable. They don't like feeling small in your own giant presence. And I want you to know that's not a bad thing. You're just simply outgrowing your world, you're outgrowing their view of you. And it has really nothing to say about you other than you're doing well, you're performing. And remember you're performing. You're not seeking validation anymore. You're not doing these, you're changing for the better. And all that's gonna do is it's gonna either force the box to grow with you, or the box is simply just gonna collapse, and once the balloon is out, it's gonna go really far up, and people don't want to see that. In a way, that's the best way I can give it to you. And yeah, this video wasn't explained very well, but I just want you to understand that's how it works. So here's what you need to understand. They can't actually break you. The only time they can is if you let them. You need to understand, if anyone has anything negative to say about you, even though you know yourself to the core that you're not actually a bad person, you're not actually what they're saying they are, they're just projecting. That's why identity is so important. You do need, if you're really serious about achieving your goals, you really need to understand who you are. And don't worry, the process will test that, and it will mirror who you are back to you. So that's why the process, I really like how God has like made this process a part of the journey, because in order for us to carry what we want out of this life, it will test us in all kind of ways. And that's why you really need to affirm yourself in your identity. Because once you're sure of yourself, it doesn't matter what life tries to project onto you, it won't be able to get to you, because you know no matter what the world says about you, it's wrong. Because you're so confident in yourself, if that makes sense. So I'm going to leave the video at that. It wasn't the best one, but it was still a rep. It was still a video. And as long as it helps one person, that's all that matters. So I'm going to leave it at that. My camera's overheating and it's about to die. But I really hope you could get something from that, friend. As always, never give up. Being ambitious is a blessing, not a curse. It just feels like a curse. But just keep rising because it will pay off in the end. So as always, my friend, I will see you in the next one. Peace out.